Hi guys. You know, I get asked a lot about rattling, antler rattling, and using a call. And so I'll just take a few minutes here to touch on that subject. Right here I have some rattling antlers. They're big. I like them big. The little ones are kind of little clickety things. I like something that's got a little bit of volume to it. So I like big antlers like this. One of the reasons to get out and look for sheds, find some good, big antlers. They make wonderful rattling antlers. Now, before I do this, let me tell you, there's one time of the year when there is a lot of antler rattling going on in the woods. And that happens between it starts happening on, right after September 1st. And it goes on all the way until about the first part of November, actually. And so September and October are the months for rattling. I know that's primarily the time when archers get to hunt, no firearm hunting. So, but if you're a bow hunter, serious bow hunter, rattling can bring in more bucks than you might realize. But you know, I've been to contests for rattling and calling all over the country. I used to put on seminars all over the eastern United States, from Aloe Beans down to Buckarama, Aloe Beans, Maine, and Buckarama down in Georgia, and west from there, Chicago, Cleveland. I've been everywhere doing this. But anyway, when whitetails battle, you know, what they're doing is they're fighting to determine which of them is most dominant. This gets to be pretty serious. In the beginning of this September period, most of the battling is short-lived, doesn't last too long, not real serious, but you get toward the end of September and into the first half of October, and it gets really serious. And then it can even go on through the period when does are breeding, but it's not real common then. But battles between two dominant bucks can be really dynamic. This is a time when putting every ounce of their strength into pushing against the other deer, they can get their antlers locked. The antlers will bend a little bit and they get locked, and they end up both of them dying. So, but anyway, most of the time, what a battle is two bucks with antlers engaged pushing toward one another. And the one that gets pushed back loses significant ground and probably will have to jump away to avoid being injured is the loser. And from that time on, for a year, that buck is subservient to the buck that won the battle. But battling isn't, they aren't, you know, I've been to some of these contests, and some of them like, I remember one down in Buckarama, and the guy was doing what he called a Texas tickle, going like this. And he won. This was a judge's idea of what rattling sounds like. Then I've been to others where somebody just hammered the daylights out of them like that, and that's ridiculous. When bucks fight, when you're trying to imitate the sounds made by two bucks fighting, their antlers are jammed together and they're pushing as hard as they can toward one another. And so you get this kind of sound. You hear that? That's more like it. Now once in a while, you know, they might back off and come at each other again and get a louder thing, and they're trying to get a good purchase. And what they want to do is twist that other buck's neck or twist it to the side, and then they can't push forward, and then they can push them backwards, and then they lose. But anyway, most of the time their antlers are tight together, and what you hear is what you're hearing right now. But if you're doing this, that's terrible. Now, in September, most of those battles are not long-term. They're just short-term, like this. Now, let me tell you about where they're doing this rattling. After they shed velvet at about September 1st, a few days either side of September 1st, bucks in each square mile start getting together to feed. They feed together twice daily in a special spot, just the bucks of the area. You might see 6 bucks in this one feeding area, twice a day. None anywhere else, just this one. They like that one. And then toward the end of each feeding cycle, two of them will get close together and they'll bump antlers, and that's a challenge. Why don't they bump antlers? Let's go at it a little bit. And then those initial fights are short. So if you went out in the woods and you were going to do some antler hunting and just kept doing it for a long time, those other bucks that hear that sound are going to know that there's something wrong about that. Nobody fights like that now. Toward the end, they can be more prolonged, and they certainly aren't like that, and they aren't little things like this. They're pushed together hard, and you move them a little bit like that to make those kind of sounds. Now, so when you're rattling antlers, you just don't sit there and do that for 15 minutes. In September, probably only do it for about 20 seconds at the most, and that's it. Then stop and wait a while. You can wait 20, 30 minutes, and then do it again later, for about 20 seconds. And then later, then put them aside and wait. Then later on, when you get into October, then they can be more prolonged, and maybe just a little bit more noisy, and you can go for, say, half minute, maybe even a minute, but I wouldn't go any longer than that. But one of the things, at this time of the year, when there's a number of bucks in a feeding area, and you might not be able to see them all, the feeding area might be, all kinds of stuff this tall, but you hear them. This time of the year, bucks that are not fighting, when they hear two bucks fighting, quite often will race toward the spot where they hear the fight going on, like kids in a schoolyard when the fight starts. The first time I ever tried these, honestly, I went to a local airport that has a woods on one end, and it's always been known that there's quite a few deer in that woods. And I started rattling, and I only rattled for about 30 seconds, and 7 bucks came from all different directions. And holy man, boy, have I been missing something. Well, I've never had that happen since then. But younger bucks, yearlings, love the battle. They'll take on the biggest buck in the feeding area, sometimes several times before they finally figure out, well, this isn't such a good thing to do. But they're especially attracted to the sounds of two bucks fighting, so you're likely to see younger deer before you see big ones. The big ones are smart. Most of the time when they hear that, what they're going to do is I think if something doesn't sound right to them, I'm going to stay under cover and go downwind and sniff that area to see if there's what I smell there. And if they get down there and they smell a human, well, they just aren't going to see that buck. So sitting in a tree stand doesn't help. They're going to smell you anyway. I'll be going into that more later, but at any rate, that's all there is to rattling. Just don't overdo it, and make the sounds with those antlers tightly engaged like that, because that's what it sounds like. Now you might add a buck grunt or two before you start that. Sometimes the bucks will grunt at each other before they start rattling like that, and that might add a little bit, but you don't want to do much of that. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, one of the problems with rattling is when they hear the sound, they're coming right at you. And if they can see those antlers, they're going to come right for those, and before you know it, they've got you pegged. That's a human over there. And you know what will happen then? You'll never fool that buck again, or those 2 bucks, or whatever. When they hear that, they're going to say, oh, that's probably that human. I better check that from downwind before I go in. So be conservative about this, but you want to keep those antlers low and hidden when you're doing this. Like if you got a blind, you want it below the edge of the blind, or if you're in deep grass on the ground level, which I would probably be, well, that would be good. Keep it down low when you're doing that so they don't see them. And then only do it for a short period and then sit back and wait. And be ready, have your weapon, your bow ready, or gun. And because all of a sudden there'll be one right there, and you want to be ready. You have to listen. If you hear a little tiny twig snapping something once in a while, or grass swishing, or maybe it's behind you or one side, make your movements very slow when you turn to look, and oh, there's one right there. and he's looking right at you, you better not move. Don't blink an eye. As soon as he moves again and his head is hidden by intervening cover, you can bring your weapon up and be ready to fire when he steps out into the opening again. But you're the center of attention when you use one of these, or a set of these. So that's basically all there is to it. But just don't do that kind of stuff or some little rickety-pickety sound like that, because that's not what those battles sound like. Now, so that's antler rattle. Well, here's another thing that you need to know. When you're rattling and a buck is coming toward you, one thing you don't want is to have exposed skin. When you're out in the wild, your skin it just looks so different. It's so much brighter than natural cover all around you and behind you. Easy to spot, especially when it moves. I use head nets all the time, and especially when rattling. I have two kinds. One kind with a hole in it. I guess I don't have that one here. And then I have the kind that has no hole in it. The reason I have some with no hole in it is because I wear glasses. And wearing head nets keeps the sun from glinting off my glasses during the daytime. I can use one like this and put it down like this. It doesn't seem to, bucks don't seem to notice you if your eyes are exposed like this, and that works just great. And so when they're coming toward you, if they can't see that bare skin on your head, your chances of getting one up close for an easy shot are much, much better than if you didn't wear a camo head net or a mask. But whenever you hunt whitetails, you should have a camo head net or a mask on, and they're like magic. You can't believe how close whitetails can pass you. Every year, hunters in my gang and myself have deer passing as close as 10 feet away and not even notice you. If you're sitting still and you're wearing something like that, boy, it's just magic. It's worth having. If you don't have one of these, get one. During firearm hunting season, wear your blaze orange cap on top of your head net, not below it, okay? Well, there. That's what I wanted to tell you about using rattling antlers and using them conservatively. You might get quite a number of bucks before they all get wise to you. But be careful with them and stay well hidden and wear a head net. There you go. Good luck now.